Shannon Vlogs number 47 with the book to film challenge titled of The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith. Hey everyone, it is Shannon and I'm excited to share my thoughts on The Price of Salt. It was my July book to film challenge title, although I haven't vlogged pretty much at all this month, so therefore I am a bit late on my vlogging, although I did read it in time. It took me a little bit to get to it, but I did end up reading it in July. I had to do some active reading because I had to get caught up on Brooklyn, and they were kind of similar in that they're both sort of coming of age women protagonist stories. But anyway, I did end up reading it on time, so I'm very happy about that. This is actually published under a pseudonym of Claire Morgan. Patricia Highsmith wrote The Strangers on a Train. She's also known for the Talented Mr. Ripley books, and this one is actually a lesbian cult classic, and I would assume that's why she published it under a pseudonym, but I'm not totally sure. And it came out in 1952, and wow, this is a really ahead of its game, which is sad, but also great. Like, it's, because it's so hard to talk about it without really talking about the plot, but I guess I'll just sort of leave it at that it has cult status for a reason, and I think that that's pretty awesome, and that's one of the reasons why it ended up being on this year's list. It did take me a while to get into it. It is a lot of, and I think that's, I don't know, I think it's because I had just read Brooklyn, and they do feel similar, the coming of age thing, and it's weird. Usually I love coming of age stories, but this one I'm not sure why I said it follows. Yeah. I was just worried that I'm like, the pseudonym is Claire Morgan. I was like, that's not the character name. Now the character's name is Therese. But I don't know, for the Therese was a character that I didn't quite connect to. She is a bit indecisive. Like, I feel like, I don't know, like, I felt like I didn't know I didn't know if she knew what she wanted to do. And I think that that is very important to her character and integral to her character, but in terms of her reading experience, it's kind of weird to be reading about someone and feeling like, I'm not sure what they want. And it's true that they might not know what they want. And in this case, it actually once she started to know what she wanted, she definitely started to move in that direction quite subtly. But one of the things that was absolutely extraordinary about this book is you could tell in conversations that sort of like everyone else knew what was going on except for her. And I don't know how the author did that. Like, I don't know how the author wrote from that perspective that the person who's receiving all this information has no clue what's going on, but everyone else gets it. And it's not that she's not smart, it's just that she's young, and so she's just not, reading the subtext or like the body language or like the whatever, what's behind people are saying. One of the things though I didn't like that much is I felt like there was a fair amount of repetition in the fact that, she would think about doing something, she may talk to someone about doing something, then she does something, and then she talks to someone about what she did, and talks to someone else about talking to someone else about what she did. And for me, that kind of stuff drives me bananas. I don't need to hear things that amount of time. And it is important, though, because there's definitely complicated relationships that she has in it, and people that are sort of dueling for her attention, and people that she's involved with for dueling their attention. So having those conversations is actually really important, but I didn't find it that interesting because I sort of like was reading the subtext the first time around. So anyway, like, that's a bit of a, that's pretty small, but it happens more than once. But it was something that did sort of grate on me. That's the truth. One other thing that I wasn't anticipating is at some point it becomes quite a bit of a thriller. Not in terms of that there's a mystery, but that there's like, I don't want to get too specific, but it does have the energy of a thriller, that things have to, that there's high consequences and you gotta move and you're making big decisions and those kinds of things, which is wild because it starts off and it's so sort of gentle and normal and everyday life kind of feel. So to have this sort of adventure mode, is kind of like, where did this come from? But that's part of, I think, the coming of age element, and the like the development of her character is getting into like a fuller bigger, more exciting, more dangerous life. And so I get it, but I just wasn't expecting it. Like all of a sudden I was like, whoa, this feels like some crazy like mystery like kind of thing. So that was kind of really funny. One side note that I will mention in terms of the reading experience is that I went back and looked at some of my other sort of year-long challenge type things, and at some point I had decided or realized that doing a challenge for an entire year is too long for me. So July is the halfway point, and I think that got me in a bit of a funk of feeling like, oh, do I want to do this anymore? Like, I picked all these books already. What if I want to switch things up? What if I want to take the month off? I was just like, meh, meh, meh. So that got me, like, in terms of reading it, it felt a little more like work, you know? It was some decision I made one day in December or early January, and now I'm like, what? You know, but it was a good book, and I did enjoy it. I just felt like, you know, like, sometimes I think also in the summary, I get the, like, I'm like, I don't want to do anything. Like, I don't want to have to do anything. So it's really kind of funny. Oh my gosh. That being said, when I did sit down to read it, it was quite you know, an enjoyable, easy read. And it's really funny because I like this cover, and it has a really good, I think it's, I don't know if it's an introduction as well as, no, it has an afterword by the author now so many years later, because this came out in 52. And then this edition, I think, came out in the 90s. Yeah, I think this one came out in the 90s. So that, you know, definitely was when it was, I'm sure, I would assume, be recognized for its cult classic status. So it was really interesting to hear her talk about sort of where the story came from, where she was coming from, what her life was like when she wrote this book. So I did appreciate that. And I really do appreciate and understand the importance of this book. And for that, I sort of forgive some of the things that I kind of was dragging my heels through reading it, which is not based on the book in and of itself. It was just sort of situationally, you know, reading Brooklyn and then this, you know, not being particularly drawn to historicals in general, you know, but there were a lot of amazing elements about this, and I really appreciate sort of where it stands and how important it is. So I do give it that credit because it's due, and I see that. I don't have to give it. It already has that. I don't, you know, me saying that, I don't know if that does anything at all, but I do appreciate it from that perspective wholeheartedly. One really, the trailer is actually now out for the film adaptation, which will be called Carol, and a release date is also out, which is exciting. It is coming out in November of 2015. The trailer looks amazing. It looks amazing. Like, I really felt like I was feeling the book come to life. And it's weird because this sort of, like, when I was researching it, this one sort of feels like it was a pulp novel, and I didn't really get that. I still sort of, I get it, but I don't really get it, because now I just think of it as like regular fiction. So, but the trailer doesn't feel pulpy. It feels, to use a term that I don't really like, literary. I just feel like that's like calling a movie a movie. The movie looks filmic. It's like, what? What's the difference between literary? Anyway, for me, I'm not a snob enough to understand the difference. Anyway, the trailer looks amazing. It's being directed by Todd Haynes, who did Far From Heaven, and it stars Rooney Mara in the, I was going to say title role. She's not the title role. Her name is Therese. She is the protagonist. The title role, Carol, is Cate Blanchette. Anyway, it looks amazing. Like, like, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And as I said, it did really well at cons, and Rooney Mara did win an award for her role. And it's funny because I actually found an old copy of Entertainment Weekly, and it was before it was at the festival, or when it was just going to be at the festival, and a lot of people had pegged Cate Blanchett for winning a role, and then, as it turns out, Rooney Mara won a role. I don't know if they ended up being both nominated. I don't know how the awards work there. But anyway, it looks high quality and gorgeous stylistically. It's just like, you know, just Todd Haynes really knows how to do that, and it's a compelling story, so I look forward to seeing the film version. Yay! So now I actually have to get onto, I haven't started yet, the August title, which is Story of Your Life, which is in this book of short stories, Stories of Your Life and Other by Ted Chiang. That is my August choice for the Book to Film Club, and I gotta get reading that because it's like, you know, and because there's another book coming down the line in September. I think it's Frankenstein. So there we go. Price is Salt. Let me know if you've read it, if you enjoyed it, if you plan on seeing the movie. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.